Hey guys, and welcome to an epic showdown between two mighty warriors. I'm a rubber duck of war, but today I'm going to be casting a battle between Energized on the left hand side and his mighty vampire count hordes, and Human Boy, yes, with his never ending chattering tide of Skaven going up against the undead. So it's basically a load of undead forces just trying to wash over a massive tide of Skaven. It's going to be quite ridiculous, a really fun battle, and actually features a really freaking awesome tactic from the Skaven. Before we hop into that though, let's have a little look here at Energized's build. This was from the tournament that was taking place on Intensity's ladder. Energized was representing Team Quack, which was my team, so rooting for my boy here. We do have Skeleton Spearmen dotted through the front with Skeleton Warriors and Graveguard as well, including the regiment-renowned Sternsman, so a pretty meaty front line all the way along, including some Crypt Ghouls as well. You don't get to see terribly often, but they're relatively quick, decent damage dealers as well. Can be pretty potent and deadly up against the Skaven, able to grind through them, and look at them, they're just so happy to be out and about on the battlefield for a bit of a change. We have triple Felbats up in the skies, looking to just harass the enemy backline, and double Vargolf. Double Vargolf is very common and very powerful, due to the fact you can heal them up. Going for these mid-tier monsters is really cost-effective for the vampire counts. Now for the leadership core, we do have the old classic double White King here, which can certainly do a bucket ton of damage, as well as having some pretty useful abilities. But sandwiched in between them is someone we don't get to see as often, and that man swagging towards the camera right now is Vlad von Karstein, the noseless badass of the vampire counts. One of the tankiest lords in the game. He has a blood drink, his mighty sword, which if we go down here, does indeed give him some juicy regeneration. He already is as well, of course, a vampire, so that regen is going to be quite nice. Comes in with Invocation Heck and Raise Dead, so again, relatively cheap there as far as the toolkit. He does have the Marshal of Beguilement. That negative 40 melee attack is going to be quite tasty, and the Karstein Ring. He, however, is currently exploding in warp power. Yes, and that's because the Skaven do indeed have some artillery pieces, and look at this deployment. It is freaking awesome. So we actually have 3 different central points, like defensive points, that the Skaven are going to be using here to try to drag and pull apart the vampire count build, and I can certainly see the logic. So down on this side, we have a Warp Lightning Cannon, backed up and protected by a bucket ton of Skaven slaves, as well as 1 unit of Poison Wind Globadiers. A similar situation in the middle, apart from no Poison Wind Globadiers here, though we do have the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, and it shall be Itik's Zap Warp Lightning Cannon. And on the far side, once again, we have a pocket of Skaven slaves, Poison Wind Globadiers are protecting a Warp Lightning Cannon. Now, what this is going to do is drag the vampire counts into different positions, or spread them thin. And if they do indeed spread thin, then we have some hard-hitting units in the form of the Rat Ogres to hopefully dominate that and take a bit of an advantage of the enemy being pulled apart and do some really nice cycle charging. And that's going to be coming in the form here of 4 units of Rat Ogres, as well as a mighty and feral Brood Horror and Itik Claw himself on his mighty Doom Wheel. Don't get to see Itik Claw as much as I would like. I really do like Itik Claw. He's a bit of a badass, and he's looking absolutely maniacal and awesome inside his Doom Wheel. Going to be coming in here with Death Frenzy, as well as Howling Warp Gale, having to go a little bit cheap due to the expensive nature of artillery pieces. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway, and you can see the vampire count forces instantly going to be marching upon the Skaven as quickly as possible. And it looks like we do actually have the vampire counts forming their own set of detachments. We have Graveguard, Skeleton Warriors, and Skeleton Spearmen going out to the left-hand side, escorted by some Felbats, and on the right-hand side, we have a load of Skeleton Warriors and their own Felbats moving a little bit more to the right, with all the powerhouses currently in the middle. They will, of course, be able to spread out in different directions if need be. Now, it does look like the mighty Vlad is the one being focused down so far by the Warp Lightning Cannon. Not the biggest target. Might be a little bit better to shoot to the Vargolfs, but hey, if you can get Vlad down and force him to use his magic on himself, he won't be able to heal up his mighty monsters, and some of the Warp Lightning Cannons are actually instead going after the Graveguard, so a bit of a mixed shoot in here to try and throw the vampire count player off a bit, make it a little bit harder to juke. Now, the Rat Ogres have pushed up a little bit. This right-hand side certainly is the most dangerous, so the Vargolfs might want to float out to this side just to protect their homies, and it looks like one Vargolf indeed has done that. The other's going to start bounding in the other direction. However, Poison Globadiers gain super aggressive here and actually charging towards the enemy. Need to be careful. I do like this play. Get some free shots and scuttle away. But with Felbats nearby, they may find their escape has been cut off and they could indeed start getting shut down. Skeleton Spearmen, though, taking quite a bit of punishment. On the right-hand side, we have the Poison Globadiers once again moving forward, but there's a load of Rat Ogres to protect them, as well as Ikit Claw and the Brood Horror itself. Bomb rushing the Skeleton Wars, looking to overwhelm this position as quickly as possible so they can then get back and protect the other flanks. And the Graveguard certainly taking a load of damage, but the Poison Globadiers need to be really careful and start scuttling away as quickly as possible. All the cannons so far are still online, though. It looks like the Felbats are starting to dive down and at least distract them a little bit. Bit of a misplay here by the Skaven player, but he does manage to rectify the situation pretty quickly, only losing a couple of models and able to fall back. And it is now time for Ikit as well as the Brood Horror to go over here and start wasting these Graveguard. In the main fight, we can see the Double White King are sticking close to Vlad, who's taking considerable damage now, down about a third HP due to the pressure of the Warp Lightning Cannons, and he gets absolutely yeeted backward, blown off his feet, and not having a good day so far. Rat Ogres are desperately trying to surround the Varghulf. It does look like the Warp Lightning Cannon is currently still online. The poor little Crypt Ghouls have been absolutely butchered so far. They're all moving in to try to support the Varghulf, who's rather lucky there to evade some of the Warp Lightning Cannon shots, but it can be quite hard for them to hit units which are so close. We have Poison Globadiers who need to get in here and start really bringing the pain to this Varghulf, although it looks like some good pressure from the Skeleton Warriors is going to stop them from doing that. Middle fight is being dominated by the Vampire Counts, as to be expected. The Warp Lightning Cannon has gone down, and Vlad is starting to drink the infected Skaven blood to grant him HP and their power. The Centaur has been pushed off, however, the flanks are going really well for the Skaven. On this left-hand side, though the Poison Globadiers have taken considerable damage, and likewise have the Rat Ogres, there's only one Varghulf left on this side, looking to try to pressure the Warp Lightning Cannon, and I don't think it's going to be enough on its own. And on the right-hand side, it's very, very messy. Though the VP are starting to push into the back and shut down this Warp Lightning Cannon, they have lost considerable forces on this side. Varghulf is still going strong, however, the Rat Ogre is being forced off, at least for now, and the Warp Lightning Cannon crew is most likely going to survive here. Poison Globadiers are up to an impressive 21 kills, continue to launch in some globes of death. Looks like this is certainly going to be a dead unit of Skeleton Warriors. Which way do the VC go? This is going to be a big problem for them. Do they split up once again, this central force which was victorious, and move into two different directions? Or do you move as one big fat wrecking ball? Now, the Varghulf is being driven away. Ikit is really on the prowl, ramming some warp rods right up the bum of the Varghulf, who's really not having a good time there. He's trying to get back to his master Vlad for a little bit of protection, and Vlad certainly will be able to help this duel. It looks like we actually have the Master of Beguilement hasn't even gone down, which isn't too good for Ikit Claw, who has been beguiled by the enemy and is going to be not having the best of days, trying to pull himself through zombies. It was a nice little summon. He should be able to use his master push through, but it's looked like he's actually kind of struggling, though. A big attack animation might be able to push him through there. We still have those Warp Lightning Cannons going after Vlad. The Cast Iron Ring has been popped, however, buffing him up. Now, we are going to be getting a big buff or debuff going down. Let's see what it is. It is Death Frenzy. We're certainly going to help out the Rat Ogres as well as the Brood Horror in this fight, and Vlad certainly taking a bit of a pound, and he's also getting crossfired right now by the Warp Lightning Cannon. So the right-hand flank has been completely cleared up pretty much. We just have the one lone Varghulf. Is there the artillery crew left alive? They just about managed to scuttle back to the battlefield. They might be able to hop back on top of their artillery pieces because the Varghulf is being fended off, at least for now. Poison Globadiers are helping dominate the left-hand side, and the Sternsmen probably going to be going down here. A little bit unfortunate for them. They still have 40 models, but only 600 HP, so they're going to be dropping like flies in a second once their HP does get low. It's probably because most of the damage done to them has been from that drain of poison, and they're not having a good time up against the Skaven Slaves. So they are actually pushing through here onto the Warp Lightning Cannon. Might be able to claim it before they go down. No, unfortunately, now they're really dropping, and the ground is littered with their bodies. The Warp Lightning Cannons have been saved. Continue to pump shots into Vlad von Carstein, who's currently going mad with warp power. He's starting to scream yes, yes himself. Kill, kill. But unfortunately for the Skaven, he's still coming after them, remembering his eternal hatred. Looks like the White Kings might be able to assist here in forcing off the Warp Lightning Cannon. Looks like they have indeed done that, and they need to also push out onto the Poison Wing Globadiers. There's a decent number of Rat Ogres left. Balance power is slightly in favor of the Skaven right now, as one of the Varghulfs is getting bullied and jumped upon. The Brood Horror pinning it to the ground, buffed up by the the Death Frenzy, doing some really lovely work. Ikit as well is not doing a bad job at all, up to 52 kills. Really impressed with his usage of his buffs as well. And that Vargulf is getting lit on fire as the Warp Lightning Cannon in the distance has once again formed online. It looks like the Skaven are going to be pretty much abandoning this left-hand side, and I don't blame them. Pull back your Poison-Winged Globadiers, pull back your troops, pick apart what count elements you can, which are unsupported, like the Vargulf here in the middle, and rally around this last Warp Lightning Cannon. And also, he's full up a big battle line well away from the artillery piece, which is 100% what you should be doing. So many players will form up a battle line like here, and your artillery piece, as soon as your front line breaks, is done for. If you're a little further back, it will be able to continue to shoot even when the tides start turning against you. Looks like this Vargulf is done for. Negative 45 leadership. Don't think there's much hope for it whatsoever. Does look like the Skaven are trying to really do a big old Warp Lightning nail in the coffin to ensure it doesn't get healed up at all. It's going to get 1 or 2 more hits in here, though. Trying to go after some Ratogers and might actually drag some down. Even in its death, it is still victorious. The other Vargulf is also getting quite low, though we are getting a Invocation of Heck to heal it up slightly and knit its wounds back together. White King's going to continue to advance, and we do have a load of Skaven slaves over here, but 1 unit of summoned zombies is probably going to be enough to actually pin them in place and just bog them down for an absolute age. They're really going to struggle up against each other, and that kind of helps the vampire count so they can move on to bigger and greater threats. This Vargulf still isn't dead, which is honestly quite insane. It's been on negative like 40 leadership for so long. It's down to negative 35 now, but it does seem like it is going to crumble into dust. Warp Lightning Cannon definitely wants to switch shots now onto this left-hand Vargulf. Ikit Claw as well is doing some nice drive-bys. He does, of course, have those warp shots flinging all around in a chaotic manner, but they do tend to aim for the enemy targets, which is pretty useful. White King, unfortunately, has felt some of that wrath. Now, the Ratogers are very beat up, which is quite problematic because this Vargulf is still going to be a bit of a terror in the night, although it does look like, unfortunately, the White Kings weren't able to get a clean connection there. Now, the Brood Horror is pretty damn scary, and it's jumping on that Vargulf, looking to drag it down. In the distance, the other Vargulf has actually survived with an Invocation of Heck. It is still going. That is absolutely insane. It's been crumbling for like 20 minutes. It is wild. The Brood Horror once again managed to fling down the Vargulf. It's been very good today at taking down those single entity monsters. I believe it does come in with, like, it's really hard hitting. Yeah, death blow, very fast, armor piercing. You love to see it. Now, the Ratogers are starting to struggle a little bit. The White Kings and Vlad himself are moving through, and with the support here of the 64 Graveguard, the Vargulf, who should have died a long time ago, is barely clinging on. Invocation of Heck once again trying to counteract the crumbling. Vlad's like, I will save you, my baby boy, I'm coming, and he's charging in. Blood Drinker is raised high, looking to force away the Ratogers as well as the Brood Horror. Unfortunately, he is intercepted and pushed back a little bit. We can see the rotting carcass of one Vargulf disappearing into the void. The second one might not be that far behind him, but it does look like the Invocations have somehow been able to stabilize him, though once again he does take a bit of a dive. They've been doing a lot of dives recently, but a large majority of the Skaven forces are just breaking. They're so low leadership at this point. All the Ratogers are beat up, and the Skaven slaves, of course, aren't really nothing to hold back a crazy monster, so that fear is really starting to settle into their bones, and the Poison-Winged Globadiers get a nice little last volley off, but they will also be going down. Warp Lightning Cannon crew have actually fled off their cannons. They do need to get back on top of it where possible and finish off this Vargulf, who has been a bane of their existence. Still negative leadership, though, and it is still crumbling. We have the Double White King, as well as Vlad von Karstein. Ikit Claw is not looking too healthy. However, his Brood Horror, who I've been very impressed with so far, is up to 1,356 damage value. Really good work there from the Feral Beastie. It looks like in the far side, no way! The Skaven slaves are able to push back those zombies, and look what's back online, the Warp Lightning Cannon, and it still has all 3 artillery pieces. I feel so bad for Energized right now. He's had to trounce all across this battlefield, left, right, left, constantly, and only for the Warp Lightning Cannon to get online once more. If he only had some Felbats left, he could chase them off. Vargulf is going to be crumbling, and Skaven simply going to rotate up and away, and this is certainly a good play. Move all the way around and pull your forces back to protect this Warp Lightning Cannon. Now, what I would do is use this Warp Lightning Cannon crew and actually go this way back round and start moving onto this other artillery piece. Sorry there for the hiccups. You can see the Vargulf is probably going to be going down, and the Warp Lightning Cannon crew are just throwing away their lives right now, so they were charging towards the Vargulf, and they get shattered just as the Vargulf goes down, and that could prove pretty pivotal, because these guys suddenly could have snuck their way around, hopped on top of this Warp Lightning Cannon, and given even more problems for the vampire counts, or force them away in different directions, which also would have been rather nice. Now, Ikit can do some decent cycle charging upon the Graveguard if he gets the opportunity, but he is very weak right now. 1 or 2 well-placed hits from the White Kings or Vlad would see the end of Ikit. He wants to get nice and close, though, so he does use his artillery pieces up and all of the remainder of his ammunition. He still has 20 shots there on him. Does look like the Warp Lightning Cannon is trying to get into a position where it can shoot, as it does get on top of the high ground once more, and it is 100% going to be focusing Vlad von Carstein down. He's at his healing cap. He does pop Arcane Conduit, try to take the enemy leadership away from them, and a couple of shots do arc in. Not doing, unfortunately, much damage, not really connecting there properly just yet. You can see good juke and gun by Energize, constantly moving his forces left, right, and left in a nice serpentine approach, but he is going to get grazed by the shots. He is still going to get connected now and again, and that could prove very problematic. Ikit is attempting to find the right time to hunt down these Grave Gun, and Vlad does there take a big hit, taking him below 1,000 HP. Some of the Rat Ogres have rallied. They could prove pretty pivotal here. It is just Skaven slaves, though, which does not bode well for the Skaven, though bouncer power is quite in their favor at the moment, which is good for them. Quite heavily there, as the Brood Horror is going to swoop up and around, looking to maybe get to grips with the enemy, but at least if he can distract them and force Vlad and the White Kings to move in a direct line, it should help the Warp Lightning Cannon actually connect with the enemy. And in comes the Brood Horror, just trying to slow down the advance of the Grave Guard, who are, look at all this, all the forces are moving off the Brood Horror, distracting them from the main goal, which is, of course, this Warp Lightning Cannon and victory. Vlad is able to juke once more. He hasn't taken too much damage, luckily for him. Ikit, though, is still being a pain in the butt, hounding and harassing the Grave Guard at every given opportunity. They are up to over 100 kills, though. A big shot does arc in and goes over the head of Vlad, sailing harmlessly wide. Skaven slaves are going to start pushing up. It might be worth just sending one unit in at a time to try to slow down the enemy and buy time for Ikit to use up his ammunition, gain magic, as well as allowing the Warp Lightning Cannon to bring the pain, although it does look a little obstructed here. It is once again going to be firing. Vlad attempting to juke still. More Grave Guard are going to start going down here. You can see a couple of carcasses on the ground as that warp fire comes in and does some pretty decent damage. Skaven slaves are really attempting to catch their opponent off guard. We'll also see a big fat surround with the Rat Ogres. Vlad von Carstein does pop his Carstein ring. I don't know if it's going to save him, though, as he's taking an absolute beating. In comes the Brood Horror, looking to feast tonight. We do get a cheeky zombie summon, and the Master of Beguilement does go down, which is going to be quite nice here, and Vlad is not having a good day whatsoever. Ikit does not want to really engage right now. He's kind of floating around the peripheries of the battlefield, and Vlad is certainly starting to crumble. The Arcane Conduit is keeping him active, and the Brood Horror is taking quite a lot of damage, but in comes Ikit, trying to put an end to Vlad once and for all, and he is able to drag him down, pushing the balance power heavily in favor of the Skaven. Now, the Warp Lightning Cannon crew is completely out of ammunition, so they're going to have to move into hand-to-hand combat, not something that they're going to be too adept at doing. Graveguard do seem to be going down here. It does look like the zombie summon does unfortunately bend to the will of the Skaven arcane magic as it crumbles into dust once more, and the Graveguard do seem like they may well die here. We still have the double White King, though, and White Kings honestly are pretty powerful melee combatants, and the Rat Ogres are really beat up, so it's going to take a bucket ton of cycle charging from Ikit and the Brood Horror to drag these bad boys down, and one false move and it could certainly be all over. Looks like we're going to get yet another Death Frenzy going down on the Brood Horror. I would like that quite a bit, increasing that damage output and allowing it to bring the pain to the White Kings as much as possible. Let's see, has it gone down yet? It doesn't look like it was going down. Maybe that was another hex or something that I didn't see come down from the vampire counts instead. Skaven slaves are going to be pushing forward. It looks like we are going to see a buff on the Skaven slaves, which is pretty hilarious. Oh, they're the ones getting Death Frenzy. Okay, they're getting Death Frenzy and charging in. I mean, it's increasing their base weapon damage and melee attack. I would 100% have rather popped it on the Brood Horror, though it is nice having Skaven slaves who can actually fight. There's quite a good chance they're actually going to break here as soon as they do engage with the enemy, and that's going to be quite problematic, particularly when Ikit is doing so much friendly fire. So yeah, the damage frenzy on the Skaven slaves probably would have been worth doing it instead on the Brood Horror where possible. Once again, we're going to be seeing the big buff or debuff go down. I'm really interested to see what this is. I don't know what hex this is going down. It might be the scurry or something that is happening. This one little here, it just might be the scurry away increasing their speed, and that's what the hex is. I'm not quite sure. White Kings are really struggling right now, trying their best though, as the Brood Horror is picking them apart. Oh my god, look at that vomit. Disgusting. This White King is drenched and not having a good day whatsoever, but they are surrounding the Majestic Beastie, and Ikit is just so tempted to jump in there. He knows he needs to start rear charging these White Kings. Otherwise, they will bring down the beast, because the Brood Horror is actually getting quite close to its healing cap right now. Cycle charging definitely is going to be the key. Skaven slaves are attempting their best best right now to pin the enemy at place. And the Brood Horror once again bounds joyfully and gleefully into the White King, but it does bound into the rather healthy one. Definitely want to focus down that weaker one. And it looks like Ikit is actually going to be committing to the fight, which is very risky, but could certainly pay off. The White King gets sent sprawling to the ground. Ikit really needs to get out of here, though. Just 459 HP as he takes some massive damage. He has no other units left, so he's unfortunately having to commit all his forces to this main fight, not able to cycle charge, and it looks like Ikit may indeed go down. The White King's slashing and hacking at the device, trying to find a weakness, and it does look like Ikit is broken, leaving the Brood Horror on its own. Bounce power, though, is still very firmly in the tides of Skaven, as the Brood Horror gets another big chunk out of the White King. Both White Kings are pretty low, and this is a bad situation, actually, for the Skaven. You want to focus one down, get it off the field. If you'd done this damage just to one of them, it would be dead, and it's nice and easy, but now it's two single entities versus one, and that tends to bode poorly for the lone and outnumbered, and the Brood Horror has taken some big chunks out of itself now. Not enjoying that whatsoever. He's bound in between the two foes, but they've got him on either side, so whichever one's hitting him from the rear is halving that melee defense, and the mighty beast is driven into a frenzy of terror and decides to flee backwards. A mighty Pyrrhic victory for the forces of Team Quack and Energized. Honestly, a fantastic game. It's really sad we couldn't get Energized on the live stream. He's such a good player, and it was really cool for him to represent our team and do some good work. I've been receiving so many awesome Vampire Count replays as well, so expect some more in the future. You can't get much closer than that. Well played to Human Boy as well. I believe he's actually one of the team captains for one of the other teams in this event, and he's always a joy to watch, particularly his Skaven at play. I do love seeing top tier Skaven shenanigans, and this tactic was legendary. It was super cool. Plus, getting to see Ikit claw his Doom Wheel is also good fun, though he was more used in a support role today rather than a melee combatant. But likewise, I mean, Vlad the Chad. When Vlad the Chad is out and about, you know that you're going to be in trouble. I will delve into the kills, damage dealt, and damage value of all these units in just a second, but if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a big juicy thumbs up, subscribe as well for more content into the future. It really helps out the channel, and comment down below what you thought of the battle, what you'd like to see in the future, or simply yell quack at me. Bucket ton of YouTube links in the description as usual, links to my Twitch, my Discord where you can submit replays and all that good stuff, and just a lowdown. Feel free to go explore if that is your jam. So well played to Energize. Vlad von Carstein only at 493 damage value, but he certainly paid for himself in the amount of time, ammunition, and dedication it took away from the Skaven, who were trying to hunt him down and kill him for so long. Almost all the Warp Lightning Cannon shots went into him, and he still fought right up to the end of the battle. As for the White Kings, 800 value and 1,154 is pretty damn solid. 115 kills is really nice, and the White Kings, never underestimate them. They kind of carried the battle today. The infantry didn't do great. Even the mighty Sternsman, such a powerful unit, though they got 95 kills, 134 damage value, and that's kind of the tail of the tape for all of the infantry here. None of them getting really good value whatsoever, apart from this one lone unit of Graveguard, who got 159 kills and 876 damage value, fighting for the majority of the battle. Now, the Vargov's got 1.6k damage value, which is very nice, and 25 kills, and 867 on the other unit with 36 kills. Furbat's did a decent job, one of them even getting 645 value, just hounding and harassing those Warp Lightning Cannons as much as possible. Crypt Ghouls got 391 value, but, you know, they look cool, and that's got to count for something. As for Humans Boy sources, massive fan of the strategy here of splitting up into 3 different contingents. I've tried it before with 2 different ones. Maybe I need to give it a go with Skaven. I might hop on top of some quick battles later today, or join into his ladder and give this a bit of a whirl and see how it actually does indeed fare. Ikit, 60 kills, but only 864 damage value. Good support character today, though, with his mighty Death Frenzy. The Skaven slaves, of course, just died in their droves, so their main job was to protect the Warp Lightning Cannons for as long as physically possible. And the Poison Wing Globadiers, 52 and 130 kills, 650 and 1,800 damage value. Quite ridiculous considering there wasn't that much to protect them in reality, because most of it was being dedicated instead to protecting the Warp Lightning Cannons. Rat Ogres, 100 kills, 60 kills, 40 kills, and 27 with 1.2k damage value, 930, 691, and 600 damage value. Lovely work there by the Ratty Boys. The Brood Horror, very impressed, just shy of 2,000 damage value. I think this is a fantastic showcase that Brood Horrors are very powerful. A lot of people have kind of gone off them recently due to the fact that they got nerfed after their initial release, but they are still very powerful in the right hands. And so the Warp Lightning Cannons, 24, 45, and 15 kills, getting 594, for 1,536 and 2,320 damage value from the Regiment of Renowned. Itix Zap Zap. Lovely work there by the Skaven, but alas, it was not quite enough. The power of Team Quack was simply too much. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.